Good afternoon, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington, and Commissioner Rogers should be in momentarily.
Thank you, Clerk Moss, and welcome everyone to the last Tuesday of this leap year month of February 2022.
That's right.
Oh, 2024, excuse me.
That was COVID.
But it is.
Let's not go back.
I we turned the clock back 2 years. Sorry about that, folks.
Other than the pandemic, I do.
2022.
The pandemic thing.
Yeah, no.
So we have, hello, Commissioner Rogers. We're just getting started. So we have a full agenda this afternoon and a work session this evening. So we're going to jump right into it. Our first topic is 2024 legislative update on substance use disorder. And I'm passing out a draft. Yeah. We need to make sure Kevin and Ms. Angie and Brad get one of those. Thank you. We have a draft handwritten handout that Ms. Doyle put together for us. So each commissioner has it.
And I've just emailed it, so there's an electronic copy which can be added to the packet.
Terrific. So the table is yours, Ms. Doyle.
Thank you all. And my team hasn't even seen my beautiful handwritten version of the new process, but we are doing our best to be responsive while an ongoing debate goes on in the 2024 legislative session, in which it was announced this morning that sine die is imminent, which just means everything moves faster and deadlines are even shorter.
So it's gone from sprint to warp speed.
Yes,
And hello to the GRT members who are attending virtually. Thank you very much for your patience with us and being accessible to us. We know you're here with us.
Yeah. So in the last, I don't know how many days, but I'm not sure that I've slept in any of them. We have been frantically reading through hundreds of pages of proposed amendments related to House Bill 4002 and been having conversations with the legislature about what that bill contains and how it is going to be paid for. So this presentation is intended to give your board a grander opportunity to ask questions of us and provide us feedback on proposed testimony.
Question.
Yes.
So that I give you my full attention. You'll let us know when you're going to walk us through this so I don't
yes,
get distracted. Got it. Thank you.
So right now we're going to first go through House Bill 4002. We are now up to the -33s, and then there's additional amendments that are one-offs. We haven't fully gone through the -33s yet. They were sent about an hour ago. But this is a comprehensive change to what is in the current bill and is dealing with a number of things related to behavioral health and public safety for both possession and dealing of controlled substances. So we'll provide that update as to what is being proposed for changes and what our responsibilities as a county will be, and then kind of outline the context of additional legislation that's going to be out there. And then we will, and during that time, we'll walk through what it looks like in reality if someone is caught with possession of a controlled substance, to help you process what deflection, diversion, and prosecution look like. And then we'll go through the letter for your consideration and feedback. The broader context on that is they held the public hearing last night. It lasted for 4 hours. The public record is held open for 48 after the beginning. So we have until tomorrow to submit written testimony, which is this draft letter was based on what we knew as of Friday. We don't think anything significantly substantive has changed except for a couple of key points that we've been successful on. So with that, I've already forgotten the order. We'll turn it over to Pablo. And this is where, Pablo, you haven't seen it yet, so I will help you with this, but it's a really fun day for all of us. They've been prepping, they've been working. The dealing and delivery, the possession charges are what is covered. The process is what is covered in this chart. But first I want to have Pablo go through what the changes in the criminal statutes are so then we can effectively understand what we're talking about with this chart.
Great.
So Pablo, can you go through the criminal statute changes, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Erin. So the updated language for HB 4002 includes several changes to our criminal code. You all should be familiar with the proposed changes to the delivery of controlled substances statute from our previous presentation, so I won't belabor the explanation. The first is the Boyd versus Hubble fix. It clarifies that possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute them qualifies as delivery of controlled substances. The amendment, it also enhances penalties for delivery offenses that are within 30 feet of a public park, 500 feet of a treatment facility, or 500 feet of a temporary residence shelter. And the legislation, it also makes some interesting changes to our possession statutes. So specifically, it would create a new drug enforcement misdemeanor, which it doesn't fall into the class A, B, or C misdemeanors we previously discussed. The maximum penalty for the drug enforcement misdemeanor would be 6 months of jail time or 18 months of probation. Deflection programs would ideally help steer people into treatment before they are ever even charged with the new offense. But of course, treatment capacity remains a major challenge. The legislation also includes automatic expungement requirements to ensure that the new drug enforcement misdemeanors don't stay on people's records permanently, and that the criminal history is expunged as soon as possible when a person's completed a deflection or a diversion program. There are also some changes in the pretrial holds. This is another familiar policy. It would just require the Chief Justice to reevaluate the pretrial release guidelines for people who are being charged with delivery or manufacture of controlled substances. We can go to the next slide unless there's any questions.
So
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
this chart that you have in your email now, Pablo, so you can't read it until I get there, which is the handwritten draft that I've created, outlines how people end up into these two options, either the probation option, which is got a diversion component, or a traditional probation, or the deflection option. So in following the chart, it's kind of a timeline of starts with the person in possession having an interaction with the law enforcement officer who has a citation authority. Anytime and also we'll make it so it's more legible, but we're just doing this quickly. So anytime pre-criminal appearance, the person in possession may select deflection. And that deflection process is something that would be set up by the county. It is an opt-in by the county. We opt in before it becomes a usable option. The first date that the misdemeanor comes online is September 1st of this year, giving us time to adopt a deflection program and set up our probation services. So it would only count for any criminal conduct that was committed on or after that September 1st date. So that's an important timeline. So that's where deflection starts. And Pablo, do you want to walk through what deflection means according to the bill?
Yes, I have the definition here. So the bill defines deflection programs as a collaborative program between law enforcement agencies and behavioral health entities that assists individuals who may have substance use disorder, another behavioral health disorder, or co-occurring disorders to create community-based pathways to treatment, recovery, support services, housing, case management, or other services.
Clarifying question.
Sure.
So deflection and deflection, excuse me. You talked about 18 months probation, 6 months in the jail, a new program that a county may opt to provide. So the board would opt to provide this, and the last bullet there talks about the different subject matter experts that would be involved with defining and delivering that system.
Correct. And the county would opt in to provide, and then we would have the opportunity to apply for funding through, there's 2 tranches of funding. There's going to be one that's available quite quickly. And then there'll be a second tranche to further expand that, the grant program through the CJC. And the first tranche is to get us ready in those first few months where we set these programs up, and then further tranches are to help us provide those services. The county is the only allowed applicant besides recognized federal tribes. Only one program for deflection purposes is allowed per county, and it's at the option of the county.
Are we required to have diversion? Sorry.
Diversion is those probation options this slide is opposite direction from this slide, so that's a little, or this. So the deflection is optional. Diversion is required as part of the criminal justice system and interaction. So that's where the probation options are diversion and then traditional sentencing.
So diversion is required, but there are two options for implement.
Diversion is only one of the probation. It's the probation before conviction option, which, or not option. It's the option of the person charged to enter into diversion.
Got it.
It is the requirement of the person in possession found guilty to enter into probation. And that's, so 12 months is if you opt in before conviction, 18 months is after conviction for
Got it.
purposes of probation.
Got it. I'm following.
And I'm making sure that my team corrects me when
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Commissioner Treese?
And this may be a silly question, but the count, it's where the crime occurred, not where the person resides. For example, if the crime occurs in Washington County
Mhm.
and we opt in, then there could be the deflection opportunity.
Yes.
And if Multnomah County, for example, doesn't provide that, even though the person lives in Multnomah County, it would not change their opportunity to take the deflection program here.
That is my understanding. Looking, seeing head nods from Pablo. Thank you.
Well, it's same with wherever you commit.
Mhm.
crime.
Yeah,
No matter
yeah,
where
that's
you
what-
live,
that's what I
where
thought.
you
Same with-
committed the crime.
It's just that the county has the option here.
I have a question
Please.
along those lines. Pablo, as you understand, if in terms of the question that Commissioner Treese asked, people who are in counties that do not have the deflection program, they will face arrest.
So yeah, I think, I would actually have to double check this, but my understanding is that they would not necessarily be like handcuffed and arrested, but they would be cited, and they'd be ordered to appear in court. That's my understanding, but I'll look to Aaron and Zucker in case you all know more about that part of the criminal justice system than me.
I think your question is totally fair, depending upon what we choose to do as a county to provide for deflection or not. So if a county chooses to not have deflection, then it just follows whatever the criminal code is.
Right.
So there would be no further services provided necessarily, except for the
Yeah.
judge.
Essentially, on this chart, you just
Yeah.
cross off this first pathway off, and instead you end up with diversion or conviction opportunities.
Right.
And the diversion piece is that probation option that the individual takes and says, I would like to go into diversion and seek treatment. That is where community corrections steps in and takes over management of the case as opposed to the deflection program coordinator, which is what is paid for. And if we have a diversion or a deflection program, there's a grant funding for that, for all of those roles and some other things that we can use to pay for with that grant. And then if they wait until their first appearance, they can then opt into diversion instead. So at that time of diversion,
Can I ask the last end of that question? To Pablo, are you hearing any future amendments regarding requiring all counties to implement a deflection program? So instead of optional, go into a requirement?
I do not think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So that's a crystal ball question. And, you know, the state legislature, whether it's in the long session or in future years, it only takes one legislator to request a bill. So
at this time, we've seen no amendment that would make that change.
Right.
I can add to this point, for the record, Zakir Khan, Washington County Government Relations Manager. The goal is to stand up the deflection programs utilizing local control and processes, and then to establish best practices after that via the CJC rounding up information, and then for a best practices guide to come out, I think, a year later or so. but no county is currently being mandated to take on a deflection program. It's completely optional.
I'll just say, just so you know where I stand right now, my concern is that these options will be defined and that the state legislature may put some money into it, but that money won't be enough for us to actually follow through. So really, that's my concern. So I really have to, it means for me as one of five, I think these thus far sound like good improvements. And I'm supportive of the legislature providing for good improvements, but I need to caveat that with, we have to have sufficient funding to build and manage this system.
I'll take on that too, because this is incredibly complex. I'm not tracking it all, and others might be, but I want to say thank you to Karen and your group, but incredibly difficult. But this looks like a really big unfunded mandate potential. And I know you're saying there's grant money, but I've never seen grants ever come close to what our costs are. I don't know that that's what the chair was getting at, but I think he was. And
This
Well,
is-
I'm concerned about.
Yeah, this is where the
Ridiculous, yeah.
deflection program being an option makes it not a mandate part. The funding, Tucker, you did the math on this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So commissioners, there are different pots existing within the initial budget framework that was released. And that is a document that we have included in your packet. That is the Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety Investments that says 211.16 million. There's different tranches and buckets of funding within this framework. So there will be money for the CAT via the shovel ready projects list at the top. There is money for aid and assist within this framework for 7.5 million. There is 2 buckets for behavioral health workforce funding. And in the prevention pot, so this is the second kind of page here, under nurse family partnership, we are a part of that program as a county on the prevention level. This is direct investments in prevention programs. We would benefit from that prevention program.
Zucker,
Yeah.
I'm gonna step in here for a second.
Sure.
Can we focus on the deflection pots of money? Because that's where we're at right now.
Sure. So our,
Wait,
Sorry.
slow down.
Sure.
We've been hit with a bunch of different documents, so you need to refer us to a specific document that's in the packet.
The one that Zucker had, it's one, it's kind of, the legislature's, I don't know what we called it.
So for
But it's-
everybody in the room that has the work session packet up, the latest and greatest, if you could give us a page number in the PDF packet, that would be really helpful.
Give me 1 second to pull that up.
Believe it's page 37.
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, addiction and community safety response.
Joint Committee on Addiction and Community Safety Investments, 211.16 million.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what I have. It is indeed PDF page 37. Is everybody looking at that? Okay, you have us where you need us in terms of the document. So to the
okay,
question, thank you.
so to address the question, and thank you, Chair, for stopping us and getting us all on the same page. In dealing with deflection, there are a couple different tranches of funding. There's a funding, and this is underneath the deflection headline in the middle of the page, where it says deflection 30.54 million. There's a tranche that goes via the community mental health program via the county contracts that totals 9.83 million. Then there is funding for the Oregon Behavioral Health Deflection
Oh,
Program.
it's on page 38. Got it.
Yes. That is 20.7 million. So our initial impression is that the CJC pot will get split in half, and that initial half will be based upon the Measure 110 formula of 14% for Washington County. The second half is a competitive grant process. As far as the top item from the community mental health program, being for 9.83 million, that is to be negotiated via AOC, MHP, and OHA after the session. And assuming they utilize the 14% assumption that we are drawing from the Measure 110 formula currently, plus if the competitive grant process also results in us getting 14% of that pot, we come out ahead of our initial projections on the fiscal estimates that we've come up with.
Okay, as long as this is above and beyond the current funding
Mhm.
for all the different things we're required to do, which I think that's what you're trying to help me understand,
Mhm.
then I am following, generally following.
Yes.
I have a question about the funding. Is that, you talked about the 14% formula for 110. Does that mean that this amount is not reduced if 100% of the counties participate? In other words, is it diminished by the percentage of participation?
It's my understanding that once they've put a funding bill together that establishes the pot of money that is allocated to the program, and based on the number of counties that participate, the formula will be based on the percentage of the population each county that is participating in. So if some counties opt to not participate, it may in fact increase the available funding and change the formula based on population not represented in participatory deflection program.
And conversely, if all
If all
counties
36
goes-
counties go in, 14% is our hold of the population, thus the 14%. So
Got
that's what we base.
Thank you.
And one of our AOC county colleagues, and I can't remember which one, says they've only had one person arrested in their
Yes, they're not
county
gonna
for
get-
fentanyl use, so. Yeah. So there may be some who don't opt in.
I didn't find numbers, are these yearly numbers?
These numbers are for the remainder of this biennium. It'd be, so next year, we would need to advocate for the budget to be appropriately sized for the biennial costs. And so that the grant program would have to be refunded by the legislature for that next biennium at a rate that reflects a 2-year need. Yep.
Is the funding, partial funding, and there'll be biennium funding in the next year. If that is not forthcoming, will this board and have the opportunity to opt out of this deflection program, or once you hear you're in the period?
I don't think that's clear. We'll get back to you, Commissioner, but it is my expectation that if you can opt in, there has to be an opportunity to discontinue the contract with the state.
It's a good question.
Yep.
So are we clear to this point with this slide on deflection? Now, now that you've gone over deflection, I understand that if someone has been arrested for possession per these new laws, that based on conviction, they could go to probation, and they have 2 choices for that. One is just 18 months, I guess, no treatment. And another one is, before conviction, they can choose to go this diversion route versus going through the full conviction stuff. So 12 months maximum plus treatment. So my question on that is, I'm not very well versed in this moment about the level of treatment availability in Washington County. So what I didn't want to do is just lead our constituents to think that, yes, this bill passed, so people will have additional access to treatment. So are there any provisions to help? So I assume we only have limited treatment right now. That's my assumption. Let me be clear on that. And so if this provides an additional pipeline for people to be directed to treatment and accepting treatment, is there service availability now, or do we need to make sure that this bill provides funding to ensure that the court has this option available to it?
Soccer, can you answer that, please?
Yeah, Chair, I think Marty Kyle's in the room and she can provide additional context to this.
Okay, we're phoning
Oh.
friends, so.
Somebody up
Vera.
We're playing hot.
We
potato
have
in
been
the room.
working with our HHS team to work through that, and so Mira is here to help answer that question.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. What is the current state of treatment availability in Washington County, just in very high level terms?
Sure.
Shortage, adequate, limping along, or there's headspace. And then what I'm concerned about is with this potential new law providing the people who
Workforce?
not the workforce, the person who is
Offended?
dealing with this court has offended, right? But before conviction, they can decide they'd rather take, instead of being convicted, they would like to go through the 12 months with treatment, the diversion option. So do we have is there the level of services available to support diversion? And if not, will this bill help increase the availability of that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Harrington, for the question. So for the record, my name is Mira Samantha. I'm the Director of Health and Human Services. I use she, her pronouns. So not yet. We don't have adequate resources as of today. We do have some resources in our Behavioral Health Resources Network, or the BURN, as we call it, BHRN, to provide treatment needs, in particular with peers and clinicians or certified alcohol and drug counselors. But we don't have any sobering, as you know, which is one reason why we need the Center for Addictions Treatment, Triage and Treatment. CAT is not going to be online by September of this fall. We're looking at spring of 2025 for opening of the Community Services Building, and then fall of 2025 for the Intensive Services Building. And as we've talked about in prior work sessions and tours, even the Intensive Services Building, where we provide those types of intensive treatment services, isn't going to launch at full force. We're going to be staggering it for its success. So we don't have all the resources we need today. We do have some. We do anticipate additional supports and capacity available if we were to receive funding through this new deflection option. But again, it just is going to take us a little time to get up to speed with these workforce investments, and then ideally additional facilities and treatments.
So
Go ahead.
thank you, but I'm not sure I internalized that correctly. On one hand, I think I heard you say we don't have adequate sources today, but also I thought I heard that we have some services today. And so I'm a little cognitive dissonance, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or
that's okay.
anything. I'm just feeling really stupid.
You're
So-
not. I might not have been clear, Chair.
I understand loud and clear. Our CAT won't be fully online the day it opens, and it's a building program. But at least we'll have the buildings hopefully open by the end of 2025.
Correct.
So I'm trying to figure out if the law passes and the criminal system, the public safety system, let me call it that, is being set up so that the offenders, I finally found the word, the offenders have a diversion choice, right? If they make that choice, will the burn, just like the burn and more have done a good job with Measure 110 to increase the availability of services, but it's trying, I get that. But we haven't had to wait for CAT to have at least some increasing services since 110 was announced. And that's a success, that it is building. But I don't want you, our staff, or the burn staff to be given even that much more stress. So I'm finding this very challenging to say yes, but the pressure is going to be felt by a system that's already in crisis and dire needs. And I'm only going to throw more at them.
Yeah, well, let me see if I can answer the first part or clarify the first part. So we do have some, not adequate, but some capacity for additional outpatient treatment services. That's the word I probably left out that I should have said. So outpatient treatment resources within our burn. Inpatient, in particular, sobering and withdrawal management, or otherwise known as detox services, we have none. There are none available. I also do want to give a gentle reminder. You said choose, right? So for offenders to choose this program, and the CAP program is going to be completely voluntary, as we've discussed. So if somebody was ordered into treatment at CAT, that would not work unless they were voluntarily agreeing to participate in those services.
Are hospitals required to help people through withdrawal management now through ERs?
Required, I don't know if I feel confident answering that question.
Okay.
Looking at Brad.
So
Brad's able to win.
really,
It's a real challenge.
I'm not trying to be difficult or a mystery here. It's just, I want to make sure, I believe, but I shared this with Ms. Doyle earlier, which is why she put this block diagram together for me. I believe our constituents expect us as elected officials to understand when we put something new together, how it's supposed to work. And our community members are seeing things with their own eyes in their community. Our police officers, right? Our law enforcement officers are seeing and experiencing things. So I'm just trying to understand how the system is, these improvements are being imagined for the system, and how do we as a county government in supporting different parts of that puzzle are mindful of our role and how we can help. And it's really, we're in these crisis states. I feel for families. I've dealt with addiction for my own family, and I feel for our own workforce and that in the whole behavioral health domain. So I'm just trying to make good decisions and informed decisions in the way that I think our constituents would expect of. So thank you for my fumbling and bumbling.
No problem. They're wonderful questions.
Yep, keep going.
I'll ask, I think this question probably Marnie, but you can give me the answer later on. The first bullet point says probation based on convictions. Sounds like people will have arrest records. How does that impact to supportive housing services and people who are on the waiting list to get into the supportive housing services?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Fye and Chair Harrington and Board. Marnie Kyle, ACA for the county for your record. It's my understanding that if they complete the program, and I'm kind of looking to Sakar too, but that their record is expunged. And at that point, it would not be difficult for them to receive the housing services as needed. What I'm not 100% sure of, and I can get back to you on, is as they're going through the program, but I believe that we would be able to work with them to give them supported housing services as they're going through the treatment. But not 100% sure of how that works with the criminal justice system.
We'll make sure that we reach out to housing and others to work through that. Everything up until conviction is not on their record until the conviction occurs, and then they are on probation. And our community corrections programs already work with placing people into necessary housing, supported housing through their programs. So there are ways to get people into those systems. Expungement is automatic under these, under this proposals, which is why each one ends with an expungement of the record. It's just a matter of how many years after, depends upon where in the system you've come out, pre-conviction or post-conviction or deflection.
Yeah, expert.
You have any more questions on this slide?
I do. One last question. I think, Aaron, you said it in the beginning. I feel like you started out with this, but could you tell me again what's the timing between the criminalization of addiction versus when the deflection program will be set up?
The deflection program setup would be intended to be within the time period before the changes in the creation of the drug and enforceability of the drug enforcement misdemeanor, which is all set up for September 1st of this year. Any behavior that occurs prior to September 1st of this year would fit under the current classifications of a Class E violation. Post September 1st, that is when the change in the misdemeanor statutes come online. That is the goal, to have if your board opts to have a deflection program, that's when I think the state's hope is that we would have those deflection programs in place from that point forward. That's why they didn't make it immediate like they did with delivery. The changes in dealing becomes effective upon signage by the governor.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All the questions I have for this slide.
Next slide.
Okay. Soccer.
Yeah, I guess I had a couple of just quick notes. Can we go back one slide, actually? Yeah,
No,
thank you.
because
Okay, no worries.
we're there. We're done.
Okay.
Okay,
Because we only have 20 more minutes on this topic.
got it.
So commissioners, there's a couple of different entities or aspects of the bill that touch on behavioral health investments, but I want to talk about one that's not on the slide that just got included in the -33 amendment. So I'm really happy to say this. I was very pessimistic 24 hours ago, but we kept working at it. And so one of the things that the county will benefit from is in the impacts grant program. This is the CJC funding. We will be able to use that for behavioral health workforce development. So that's that pot of 20 million. When we are given an allocation from that pot, we can use that for workforce development for the county to scale up and staff.
So does this mean that people who are awaiting their licensure, which takes up to a year, is my understanding, that instead of them not being paid while they go through that the workforce can be paid?
So there's different ways that we can utilize those funds as a county, and it's flexible. So for example, as Mira mentioned, say we had an individual who needed to get substance use disorder treatment for alcohol, or we needed somebody who is a peer support specialist. We could create an incentive pool to hire those peer support specialists to then go work in those outpatient settings. And it depends upon the credential of the individual. So there are some people who are licensed professional counselors who might be waiting for their credential to come through, who also have a CAADC, so a Certified Alcohol Drug Counselor certification, who we would be able to create incentives for.
Okay, so this is limited. It's still very much a specific, but it's a limited set of workforce supports. The big one we really need is, just like last Tuesday, not it's at the task force level, kick the can down the road.
At this point, licensure changes are not included in the -33.
Yeah, so I just don't want us to be singing too many praises for there being workforce development. Our response needs to be very muted. Appreciative, but muted.
Thank you, Chair.
Please slide quickly, please.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Is there anything further on the slide that we need to go over?
There's nothing further on this slide.
I am worried about the data collection and tracking with regard to the administration of that and making sure that as we are provided money to support deflection or diversion, whatever, that are having money to pay for the administration of that and deliver this data back is there.
We have been talking with the legislature about that. It is included in the allowable uses of deflection funding, but we will continue to work to make sure that the CJC creates a system that is super easy to use and manage.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
Final part, the financial package, we just put a bullet point there. That's what this document that starts on page 36 or of the packet is. We understand that that might also be adjusting. I'm just gonna cover this slide for us to go really quickly. Community corrections funding levels within that document are at $16 million. That is the back fund from our request to cover statewide. It is not an additional set of money to cover these costs. So that continues to be a concern for us, but Community Corrections Association has written their letter of support for that $16 million. We now know what the workforce supports are, $8.8 million for the United We Heal, and then their education funding, but again, and then this new change related to our ability to use those dollars at our discretion through the deflection program, grant program. And then specialty courts, that is coming in a separate bill. Pablo, 1 minute, just half a minute description.
Yeah, I can be very fast. It's just a task force bill, but the financial package does include 12 million for specialty court creation and expansion as well.
So if Washington County wants to expand our current adult, what, Aaron Calvert, adult, blah, blah, blah.
Recovery court.
Adult recovery courts. Thank you. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Does this specialty court pool of dollars provide for our applying for that?
That is my understanding. The budget document that they have shared doesn't get into many details about how that funding would be distributed though.
Okay, but I do see those two bullets. Got it. Okay,
Yep.
And then
very much.
the final part to a question that was asked, and I just wanted to put on the record, there is additional money in the budget or the financial package for the public defense system. A significant increase both in the law clinics and creating a larger pool of defense attorneys. Again, we haven't seen that bill finalized, but this is what they proposed as of last night. For sure, it's changed by this morning.
So now to your two slides on
Yes.
letters of testimony.
So
Chair Harrington, may I ask a question from the last slide?
So, yeah, the
The
additional
financial
leg-
package, Aaron, this is a thought I had on my way and probably should have looked closely last night, the materials, but is the funding still structured the way Measure 110 was? So this is coming from the marijuana tax?
our understanding is right now that they are deciding how they will do that formula, but more likely than not, they will use the similar percentage of population base for the purposes of the deflection program for the other.
Wait. Her question was the source of
The
money.
source of funding is general fund as we understand it. There might,
From marijuana tax. Go.
correct.
That was your question.
Yes.
So to get at the heart of it, I don't believe that this will impact the Measure 110 investment pool, that those sets of dollars that have been moved into that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It may change over
Thank
the
you.
next week, but right now that's our understanding.
Thank you for clarifying, so I answered the right question.
That's why she's the chair.
Well, you're all running really fast at the warp speed and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, so to get to the letter, this has been a iteration of working through the framework and putting it in an overlay over the -24. So this would be testimony provided on the -24 amendment. But at its essence, it does two things. It states where we agree with the direction they've taken pursuant to our framework, looking at things like partnership, local solution building, multiple pathways to treatment, and then supporting the study of equity outcomes, which we did also provide this morning. The CJC, the Criminal Justice Council's assessment right now is that there is inequities in the system. The intention of the legislature is to have the data to help improve our programs to put more equity into the system, but that is long-term. It is not the immediate result of what is going to happen. But the letter also notes our concerns about making sure that this funding is long-term, continuous, and sufficient, and then making sure that workforce never leaves the tip of our tongue. That this is incredibly important. We might So with that, the letter is here. We are happy to take comments, edits. I don't want to wordsmith line by line. That's not an efficient use of your time. But is the tenor and tone there? Is this something that you think sufficiently highlights your key messaging that you want to take back based on what you understand the bill to be at the point in time?
I'll start if that's okay. So I really appreciate how you're helping us understand what is before us as of today. Great work, team. Thank you. And I do understand that it may continue to evolve in the coming days. This draft letter that you've provided us on PDF page 26, starting there, does reference the -24. I'm satisfied if you want to change that to -33 based upon what you've all presented today. I also would appreciate the letter calling out that that document that started on page 37, the title of it.
Financial package?
Yes, and it may be just a footnote. I just want to make sure that whatever letter that we provide, that the legislators or whoever we're addressing it to has the benefit of knowing what the data was that we're looking at, the sources of the data. I also appreciate that you've constructed this letter based upon our guiding principles and adopted agenda for this legislature. Thank you very much. You've been doing a really good job in following through on that. So I'm quite comfortable with your finalizing a letter based upon what you've presented here today. My question, so I'm yes on such a letter. I imagine the question may come up in either the emails you provided us or in this current package. I don't know because I can't point to the page to it. There was a letter that had many different signatures, and I don't know if you're also not caught up to speed to understand if you're asking us to also sign on to that or if that remains as an option. I don't want to, you know me, I don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. But I do support the efforts that the legislature is working. My question is, do we also need to sign on to that in addition to providing our own letter?
It is my understanding that the legislature would like to see those letters of commitment. It is commitment to apply for funding. I want to be really clear about that. There are letters on the packet, including that one. I did eventually, I think it's both in the online materials. I don't know what page on the PDF yet. But I shared with you that did come from our district attorney, our sheriffs.
Oh, it's the document right before.
Perfect.
So I just want to make sure that the letter from us does stand out that, yes, this is our letter of commitment with all the caveats, if there are any, on our own letter.
Okay.
And if, in addition, if our letter is also following on to this other letter, the one titled Letter of Commitment, then if you tell me that they're consistent, then I'm comfortable as one of five towards that decision on that. Okay. So that's my starting point. Other commissioners?
I have a question about the letter. It's the last sentence of the second to the last paragraph through the final paragraph, and I'm just not. I'm asking my fellow commissioners: are we comfortable that that's a strong enough statement about funding? And it,
Which page and which?
second,
The letter of commitment, is that the one you're referring to or the
oh, I'm
letter I
sorry,
drafted?
the letter from us.
The letter
Okay.
from Chair Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you.
On which page and which?
Second page,
Got it.
uh,
So PDF
second-
page 27.
Yes.
the paragraph close to the bottom that starts, we are committed to continuing the work we have done.
We've been doing to increase access to services.
Right, and then the third sentence starts with, we need investments from the state legislature to cover the costs of these new
Yes.
programs. And then the concept of covering costs and funding follows through to that next paragraph and closing paragraph. The question I'm raising is that a strong enough statement? Or should we be using conceptually the unfunded mandate type of approach here and our concern about whether or not there'll be enough funding to meet the needs that are created?
Well, I think we need investments is pretty clear. We can ask them to bold it.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
we can highlight that as a key message through formatting. Happy to do that.
Or do you want to quantify it?
no, I don't think we can quantify it, but I'm thinking something like, we need your commitment for investments from the legislature. I'm
It says your investment in this work will make our work possible. And we could, I'm fine if you're saying your investment in this work is vital and necessary.
exactly.
Yeah.
To
Thank you.
make our work possible.
That's my point. Didn't feel quite strong enough to me.
Without it, we
Strengthen that language.
Exactly.
without your full investment, we can't.
We opt out.
Yeah, without your full investment.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I have I feel like it's worth pointing out that the speaker's office, when they were sharing this kind of draft letter of commitment and trying to collect these letters, they did emphasize that they said this language was carefully negotiated with law enforcement and they want to be really careful. And so I think we should be mindful of making changes to the letter. I just want to make sure you all are
Pablo,
aware
this
of
is
that.
our letter. This is
Okay.
our letter
Sure.
that we're talking about.
Just wanted to make sure you're aware. Yeah.
We're on pages 26 and 27.
So this is our testimony.
Oh, my apologies. I thought you were talking about the letter of commitment.
No.
With the,
Commissioner Willie, Phi, and Rogers.
The only thing that I agree with is Roy's comment, this is very complex. I would like to see a little bit more information of what we are asking. If we have a financial snapshot of what we are asking the state to fund. So I don't know what that number is. I've heard a lot of different numbers in here and different variations. And so just, it's just one liner, just, this is what we think the state would have to provide so that we are fully funded. Yes, and I like the changes that you two made on that letter. I thought that was really good too, because I think it needed to be stronger. So just, yeah, what are we looking at?
We will look to provide that information about what we think the fiscal impacts of creating a deflection program is to the board in follow-up and make the language of this letter stronger, but not specific. I don't want to tie us to a number of which we could get more.
And
Yeah,
then-
exactly.
Then the
Thank you.
the second thing that I heard you talking about was the opt-out program when they stop funding it 2 years from now. Or they significantly reduce the funding, those kinds of things. We got to have an opt-out.
Yep.
Okay.
Future biennium funding will directly impact our ability to provide the
Continue providing this.
deflection services.
Yep.
And diversion.
There is a space in the letter where I can add that information where I talk about, we've seen commitments that flatline and we can't live with them. So I'll make that language clearer about future commitments.
I do
on that.
see that you do reference, as we're working to build the CAT. What I got out of your presentation is that the current package is looking to provide funding for CAT and then these other outreach ones, but I'm not sure that the letter clearly
Mhm.
articulates.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, I can't make that evaluation now, but that is one of the parts that I heard Commissioner Willie is.
Yeah.
Yeah. you know, it's relative to our understanding as of this date. So however you choose to cite all of that.
Okay. Yeah, we can add that in.
We got 2 minutes.
I'll be quick.
Mhm.
I like your letter way better than the letter that was being circulated. And I appreciate Pablo providing the context that that was negotiated words on that page. It makes sense now, but so I appreciate what you have and I'm happy to, give you my thumbs up. I know you said you don't want to, wordsmith, but I'm not sure there's a sentence that says this -24 amendment meets our goal for greater collaboration. I think this -24 amendment attempts to actually do that. I'm not sure if it's gonna do that myself, but you're the one that's out there and living and breathing this 127-page documents, that proposal. So
Where are you?
I didn't see I'm in the third paragraph.
Which page?
First page.
So page 26.
So
So it cites the -24.
yeah, it says the -24
Oh, the
amendment
last sentence,
centers,
this
yeah.
meets our goal for
Yeah.
greater collaboration.
But I'm not gonna wordsmith, Aaron. I heard you loud and clear, but I don't fully support that this does actually meets our goal. It does attempt, but, I think so.
Soften that language to say this
Moves
is
us
steps
closer.
towards meeting our goal. So thank you.
And I'm perfectly happy with our letter standing on its own in terms of this serving as our letter.
Yeah, and because I think EA Barton and the rest, that letter is on the record and.
Yes.
so.
Good point, thanks. Commissioner Rogers.
Yeah, I always quickly have problems with anything that's rushed. I understand you work in that environment, but usually bad business form, usually. As far as the letter, I like the provisions about strengthening that's the last paragraph. I like, again, maybe because I brought it up, is that we have to have an opt-out. Without an opt-out, if there's sufficient funding drops, we have a problem. The rest of it's okay. I just have one question. Here we are, after on this day, and by 6 o'clock tonight, there may be a whole different set of provisions. You know that, and I know that. So if we send this and there are additional changes between now and what happens tomorrow or the next day or the next day, what is your attempts to come back? And I don't think you can get this whole board. Maybe just go to the chair and try.
So a letter of testimony can be only submitted when there is a public hearing open, which is what we have this 48 hours for. Any further changes that require further comment by the county would have to be done directly through your lobby team. That's what Pablo and Zachar are down there for, and Carly too, who's also there, to make sure that we're completely covered. And we would work through the systems of any additional changes through both AOC and through direct conversations with Senator Lieber and others.
So we're being very clear that our latest and greatest is -33,
Right.
which is
Mhm.
public hearing process.
That's all we've seen. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any changes.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
don't necessarily agree.
yeah, I just.
Yep.
Whole
No, I appreciate
unfunded
that.
mandate is my big concern, and.
Yep.
So
Okay,
we're fine.
okay.
Thank you all for your time, attention on this rapidly happening and very complex matter.
Love your jar.
And I'd like to just give a shout out to our team for how diligent they have been over the last 5 days with every iteration.
Good
As
job.
well
team.
as everyone else that supports us in this work across the county in a very one Washington County approach.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go. Okay, well, we are going to shift gears now entirely towards our land use and transportation and community planning and invite a significant team up with Steve Roberts as the conductor on the Sherwood West Sunset Plan. So So if you could start by introducing everyone and then take us into the topic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I'm pleased today I'm really going to just turn this over to the team from Sherwood. They're going to walk you through the Sherwood West concept plan for a proposed UGB expansion. And so I want to give them the stage to do that, but I'll just real quickly introduce who we have with us today. So we're joined by Eric Rutledge as the Community Development Director for the City of Sherwood, Mayor Tim Rosner, of course. Joy Chang is the Planning Manager, Interim Planning Manager, and a former LUT employee.
Yes. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And thank you for continuing to serve jurisdiction here in Washington County.
Exactly. Yeah, glad to have her here. And so really, I'm just here to set the stage a little bit. So they're just going to walk us through the concept plan. The purpose for the briefing today really is just to ensure that you have some visibility into this. The city will be making a formal request, we believe, for a UGB expansion in April. And then one of the actions for your board would be to consider formally acknowledging the city's study. And then at some point, we would be asked to provide a letter in support of the UGB expansion as the transportation system provider for the area. With that, I'll turn it over to you all.
Great. Thank you for having us today. I'm just going to do a quick intro and I'm going to let the experts talk about this today. But I just want to say the team at Sherwood has put a lot of work into this. The county has participated as well. They were on our CAC committee that went through the Sherwood West planning process, which took 2 years to get through, which sounds like a lot of time, but we were navigating a lot of new state regulations with HB 2001 and the impacts on that planning process. So it took a while, and we did an incredible amount of outreach in our community, probably far more than I've seen in a long time. But the team's done a great job. We appreciated the county's support on this project. I'm just here to support the team as they're presenting to you all today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Rosner. Good afternoon, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. Again, Eric Rutledge, Community Development Director with the city. So we'll be giving a presentation. I believe we have 45 minutes, so please interrupt us at any time. It's a work session, so happy to, we'll go through quite a few slides and there's, dense information in here, if you will. So please do stop us anytime if you have questions as we move along. And as Mayor Rosner mentioned, Jessica Pels, CJ Doxey were both on our technical advisory committee. So thank you for their input throughout the 2-year process as well. So we're here to talk about Sherwood West concept plan that we have going on. Again, looking at a potential application to Metro during this 2024 urban growth management process cycle. There we go. And do understand that it's not the evening, it is the afternoon. So things we'll talk about the concept plan, give an introduction to it. Joy's going to talk about the planning and engagement process that we went through. She'll also talk about the vision and goals. We'll talk about the existing conditions for Sherwood West, what's out there now. And then we'll get into the alternatives that we came up with, the input that we got from the community, and then we'll actually go over the accepted concept plan. So first, just to orient you, kind of big picture, city limits are shown here. I think you guys all have screens in front of you, right? So the magenta outline is the current city limits, and Sherwood West, as you can see, is to the left there, fairly large planning area, about almost 1,300 acres. To the south, we have our Brookman addition. That's another area that was somewhat recently expanded in terms of the UGB. Residential development happening there, and also some commercial along Highway 99. And then we have our Tonkin employment area that on the right-hand side in purple, acronym there is TEA, and that is our employment and industrial growth area. And if you look at the detail there, you can start to see the city boundary being expanded into those areas, and that's all pretty recent growth that we've had both for residential and also for employment growth. So things are moving in those two areas, Brookman and Tonkin employment area, and that kind of leads us to why we're looking at the next phase of planning and development in the city.
Before you move off that slide.
Yeah.
I serve in this role as the elected chair of the Board of Commissioners. But what I'm about to say is information from my prior role as a Metro counselor.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that before you submit your application, that you, the city of Sherwood, have pulled out the IGA from urban and rural reserves and looked at the conditions specific to those areas, so that in your minds, you are satisfied that you've met those conditions. I don't need to know the answer to that. I just wanted to make sure that I gave you the benefit of the potential for that to be referenced through the process moving forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yep. Also on the slide, I didn't mention it, but about 126 properties, 110 property owners, average property size is about 10 acres within Sherwood West. And we did do a preliminary concept plan in 2016, and we did not submit an application to Metro during the 2018 cycle. And so we refreshed or re-looked at that concept plan for this urban growth boundary cycle. The reason we took a look at it and modified the plan, a few different reasons from a policy standpoint, shifting priorities with our city and city council. We're looking to diversify our tax base, bring more jobs to the city, move away from being just a bedroom community and really allow the opportunity for people to live and also work and recreate and everything else within the city without having to commute to Portland or somewhere else. We did a new comprehensive plan between 2016 and now. We updated our housing needs analysis, economic opportunities analysis. All that went into this relook. A lot of good planning work in the last 6 years or so. Changing physical conditions. We have a new high school that went in the Sherwood West concept plan area. And we've also just continued to grow, as I mentioned, the Brookman addition and Tonkin employment area seeing substantial growth. And then at the state level, changing regulations. House Bill 2001 was not adopted in 2016 when we did the first plan, and that really changes how we look at densities, land use, and housing in particular.
One of these days, we're going to have to stop just calling it top 2001 and refer to it as middle housing. Yes, since numbers get recycled.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll start now. We adopted middle housing regulations in the city. So again, why a relook? We did our housing needs analysis in 2019. These are two images from Sherwood on the left. These are some townhomes that are going in our town center or old town. And then on the right, a single family home that's going in Brookman. And Joy's going to get into more detail here, but the image on the right, the single family detached home is what we have seen in Sherwood historically. What's on the left there is somewhat far and few in between recently. The last 2 years, we've constructed over 90% single family detached homes. And so Joy will get into what we're actually proposing for Sherwood West, but we want to provide smaller, more affordable units for people to age in place, first time home buyers, et cetera, and just provide more options for housing, including middle housing. We have a need in the last HNA for about 600 units outside of the urban growth boundary. We have a need for about 1,700 units total, and we can't meet all of that need within the current urban growth boundary. And so we are in part requesting the expansion to meet the housing need over the next 20 years. We also updated our economic opportunities analysis most recently in 2023, actually, and this is probably the biggest change in the city that we've seen recently. This is an image of Sherwood Commerce Center. It's still under construction off Oregon Street in the city. And these are the types of developments that Sherwood has started to attract. And the reason why we updated our EOA, this is about 450,000 square feet flex industrial space. We have another project that was completed recently right down the road to Alton Sherwood Corporate Park. The types of businesses that we've been attracting are our target industries. You can see them on the right there: Lamb Research, DW Fritz, NSI, all these advanced manufacturing, some of them squarely within the microchip industry. And because of this really, more rapid growth and policy change in direction from council, we have a need now for 277 acres of employment and industrial land outside of the current urban growth boundary. And just one more note on this, Sherwood Commerce Center site that's on the slide now was our last, I guess, large site over 10 acres. And so when this site got developed, we lost our last 10-acre plus available and unencumbered site in the city. And so we'll be looking at the expansion to provide not only more land, but the right types of land for employment growth. And this is a slide from the 2018 Urban Growth Report, and it is the industrial land inventory analysis. And basically what this shows is that there are the analysis concluded there's 8,600 net buildable acres of industrial and employment land within the urban growth boundary, which on its face seems like a lot. But when you drill down into it, there is actually no unencumbered and available tier 1 sites, which means development ready within 6 months. And so while Sherwood has no available unencumbered 10-acre plus sites, the region, at least in 2017, 2018, had nothing 50 acres or larger that were development ready within 6 months. And so what we're seeing at the local level is also happening at the regional level. And of course, this is a regional urban growth boundary expansion. And so we're not only thinking about ourselves, but also what does the region need? And we'll get into the land supply that we're looking at in Sherwood West and the opportunity to create large lots for employment uses. And I'll turn it over to Joy. She's going to talk about planning and engagement for Sherwood West.
Just for the record, Commissioner Fye did let us know previously that she would need to step out of today's work session. She did that approximately 13 minutes ago. So we hope she'll return. Thank you.
All right, planning and engagement. The Sherwood Concept Plan was developed between the spring of 2001 and spring of 2023 through collaborative planning process that engage a multitude of Sherwood residents, businesses, and property owners, local organizations, technical advisors, city staff, and consultant. And of course, the timeline is depicted on this slide. The city convened 2 stakeholder groups to help guide the project: the Community Advisory Committee, the CAC, and the Technical Advisory Committee. As you know, LUT was part of that committee, which represented a broad range of interests. Together, these committees represented expertise that helped shape the direction and results of the process. Washington County Land Use and Transportation, again, was part of that, was at the table. This slide just identifies the full list of community engagement activities that we did do, including community open houses, online surveys, targeted outreach to high school students, meeting with neighborhood associations, stakeholder interviews. We created a project webpage and periodic emails to interested parties. Every step of the way, Sherwood community members provided meaningful guidance and feedback, which I think is very important. The guidance has been essential to the Sherwood West planning process, and the design of the concept plan is a reflection of this work. Visions and goals for Sherwood West are reflected. Oops.
Skip too far.
Wow.
There you
Okay,
go.
are reflected on this slide, and I'm not going to read all of them, but I will read the 6 key goals for Sherwood West. The area is designed as a natural extension of Sherwood and is integrated into the existing pattern of growth in order to preserve the community's heritage and small town feel. The area attracts a variety of businesses and employment opportunities, which helps satisfy the city's need for an expanded tax base. The transportation facility serves to connect rather than divide neighborhoods. Residents have access to a variety of parks and natural areas anchored by the Chicken Creek Greenway. The area is served by a robust network of active transportation options that are integrated into Sherwood's existing network. And finally, growth and development are well planned, and implementation of the area is pragmatic.
Thank you, Joy. Existing conditions, so, what's there now? This is the southern tip of Sherwood West outlined in yellow. You can see, relatively large lots. So again, about 10 acres in size average. On the right-hand side, kind of top right, you can see the Woodhaven neighborhood existing, subdivisions. You can really, as you can, all throughout our region, really see that, urban-rural divide at the urban growth boundary line. At the bottom right, you can see the Middlebrook subdivision that's going in our Brookman addition. And so, that development continues and will eventually continue to the west, hit Highway 99, and then we'll get going on Sherwood West. Rural land use is still farm and forest practices in Sherwood West.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, yeah.
Could you simply remind us for the
I got a point or two.
line that's going diagonally,
Yeah,
what road is that?
good question. That's Highway 9. That was an easy one. That's Highway 99. I'm sorry, east to west. I'm sorry.
No, you're.
Oh, north
right,
to south,
the
north to
diagonal
south.
one.
Yeah, so it goes diagonal through the city, Highway 99.
Yeah, I was misinterpreting that intersection with a rotary. So that's why I needed to make sure I had it right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And a lot of county roads in here. This one is Brookman Road, Brookman and Chapman intersection there, and this is Highway 99.
Thank you.
New Sherwood High School went in there. Yep, thank you. A lot of open space and natural resources exist there now. The main feature being Chicken Creek, which runs south to north and west to east through the planning area, eventually lands within the Tualatin River National Wildlife Refuge. We'll get into details, but the plan really leans into the habitat that's there now and really reinforces the Chicken Creek through a Chicken Creek Greenway concept, which I'll talk a little bit more about.
So it's this slide that reminds me to ask the question. You talked about your CAC and having Washington County staff involved technically. So with our other hat on, right, take Board of Commissioners hat on, put my CWS Clean Water Services hat. Were the Clean Water Services folks in any way involved with your planning?
Yeah, and I think we have some in the audience today. Yes, the Clean Water Services staff was on the technical advisory committee as well.
Thank you for bringing voice to that, because when I see slides like this, I am reminded that surface water management is becoming a bigger and bigger need, as well as regulations in that role. So that's all I just
absolutely
needed to have it
No.
brought with.
The whole team is here.
Great, thank you.
No, not
I recognize faces. Thanks.
I often say we don't want to see what Washington County looks like in 40, 50 years without clean water services, and I really mean that. I think the value and the long-term value, we already see it, but we're gonna see it even more as time goes on. So yeah.
Partnership, all three of you.
Transportation, the main Highway 99, you can see running in blue there. It doesn't actually go through Sherwood West, but it does come very close to the boundary at the Elk and Highway 99 intersection. The main current county road that goes through the planning area is Elwart Road. And you can see it running north to south planning area. We expect that to continue. Sherwood West will be defined in terms of urban design or planning by Elwart Road for the most part. We're looking at some alignment options for Elwart Road. We can get in more into that as well. In terms of the planning process, this is a slide that just shows the different alternatives that were considered by staff, the Technical Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee. We also took this to the public and got their feedback, what is important in the land uses and where. And what we heard, not to get into those details, but what we heard about through that process was that the design of Elwart Road is important. Preservation of natural features is important. We needed to plan for parks and trails. We needed to support a variety of housing, including smaller and more affordable units. There was support for the employment district in the north, which I'll get into, support for a mix of uses near the highway, near Highway 99 and the high school. There was some concern about a north-south connector at the far west end of the planning area. near Eastview Road that made it into the plan, I guess softly is what I'd say. Basically saying it's a potential and that we would need to look at that further. And that led us to the recommended concept plan, which was accepted by our city council in July. Really brief summary of it, really diverse land uses, as you can see with all the colors on the map, a connected transportation system, and then ample parks, trails, and open space. And I'll just go really quickly, top to bottom.
Before you do that,
Yep.
is this recommended one a variation on a theme of all three, like taking the best of all three plus these comments?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Thank you. I just needed to be led towards it.
It was a mixture. It wasn't one or the other. Yes, we kind of blended the best attribute features and preferred features of each one. Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
question. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
So just going really quickly, top to bottom, what you see there in the north, the purple is our mixed employment zone. That's the key employment area within Sherwood West. I'll get into what mixed employment is in just a second. You can see Chicken Creek running through there, the natural area just south of the mixed employment zone. Two parks along Chicken Creek. You can see those in the darker green. And then near the high school, I should point that out, the high school is about right there where the white square is. That's really where our more traditional mixed use comes in. So we're envisioning higher density near the high school and then a greater variety of housing near the high school as well. That's where the middle housing, much of the middle housing cottage clusters will come in. The sort of mild yellow color on the west end is the lower density housing on the hillside. One area that we're also really excited about is at the very south. That hatched maroon color is our proposed hospitality or gateway district. We're proposing a hospitality district to take advantage of our geography as the gateway to wine country. And we're really not the gateway to wine country, in my opinion. We're kind of within the wine country, the Chehalem Mountains here that sit and surround Sherwood. Just a lot of different wineries, small scale agriculture, a lot of food, drink, wine opportunities there. And it's the gateway in terms of Highway 99, but we really north, south, east, west, there are wineries all around Sherwood. And so we're hoping to take advantage of that and provide a hospitality district, which I'll talk more about.
Where, oh, never mind.
No,
I'll wait.
okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to talk about the residential land uses for the next couple of slides. So as reflected on the slide, we're looking at residential low, medium, medium high, middle housing, cottage clusters, and multifamily. Sherwood West is going to be a little bit unique in regards to just because of the middle housing regulations. We are planning on purposely zoning middle housing, cottage clusters, those aspects of specific zones for that.
So towards that end, this is where you'll be advancing my knowledge of middle housing. And it may be that I've thought too simply about what House Bill 2001 requires and enables. So I understand you have a vision of specific housing types in different areas, like you were just saying. But doesn't House Bill 2001 say, as long as it's a single family home, it could be up to a quadplex, right?
Right. The House bill states that areas zoned for residential use that allows for development of a detached single family must also allow middle housing types.
Yeah, so that's where you're really going to help cement this. So of the 6 types that you have listed here, which ones are thought of as single family detached?
They would be the residential low, residential medium high.
Okay, thank you. Now I have that nuance.
Okay.
And just to elaborate on that just really briefly is, we, as I mentioned in the introduction, in the last 2 years, 90% of what or 90% of what developers built in Sherwood was single family detached. And that is with the allowances of middle housing.
Yeah, it only
And-
enabled, didn't require.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
And in this case, residential low, medium, medium high would allow the opportunity for middle housing. There are some, I guess, exceptions to that if you're doing a master plan community. But regardless of how we approach this, we wanted to make sure that we got some middle housing in Sherwood West. And if we followed a pure market rate approach without these middle housing cottage cluster zones, we didn't have a lot of confidence that the market would deliver middle housing. And so that's why we came up with these middle housing only zones, which are interestingly not regulated by HB 2001. They're kind of just innovative new middle housing zones that we're going to come up with kind of between single family and multifamily.
So in terms of looking at the diagram, I see MF, which I assume is multifamily.
Yes.
MU mixed use, and there's MDN and MHDN.
Yep.
So MDN and MHDN and the word middle, those are all three types for middle housing.
It would just
Correct.
actually be where it actually reads middle. There's a few of those. So
Yep.
it's the middle housing and then the cottage. So COTT are the
Yep.
two middle housing cottage cluster zones.
So what is MDN and MHDN?
Those would be the zones that Joy just mentioned, the residential medium high, residential medium. So
Oh,
those would be our more traditional, if you will. Yeah.
okay. Thank you so
Acronyms.
much.
Lots of
I
planning
appreciate
acronyms,
that.
yeah.
Really do.
All right. So planning for a variety of housing options that will meet the needs of the wide range of Sherwood residents was a key objective of the concept planning process, providing housing opportunities for first-time home buyers, seniors who may prefer to age in place or downsize their housing, and moderate income households will require a wider range of housing types than that has been typically provided in Sherwood. And examples of these are designated places in Sherwood West include single detached homes on smaller lots, cottage clusters, townhomes, duplexes, triplex, fourplexes, garden apartments, and mid-rise apartments. These types will be in addition to the standard single detached housing that has characterized Sherwood developments.
Hey, I love my three-story detached single-family house. Not quite sure how it fits in all those categories and pictures, so that's why I just mentioned.
So one of the key elements in regards to providing housing elements, like we stated that, the House bill areas that are zoned residential allows for development of detached single family, must also allow all middle housing types. So this chart itself, total estimate amount for future housing in Sherwood can range roughly from 3,117. Right there, all the way up to the range of 5,582, depending on how much middle housing is developed within the neighborhood zones. So this scale goes from 0 middle housing to 10% to 20% to 50%.
You've done a really good job of enumerating what is enabled versus what could possibly happen. Really appreciate it.
Right. So again, from 3,000 to 5,000, depending on how much middle housing is developed in these neighborhood zone. The low end of the range represent no middle housing being developed. The high end, 50%. While middle housing will be permitted in neighborhood zone as required by state law, it's unknown, right, on how much will actually be developed. Currently, there's still a strong market for single-family detached housing in the region based on current development trends and consultation with developers of the region and housing economists. A realistic estimate is somewhere in the range of 5 to 10% of single-family areas will be developed with middle housing. Yeah.
Cool. Really briefly on the employment land uses in the North District here, this is our key mixed employment zones, about 250 gross acres. We targeted this for employment because of the as existing physical characteristics, flat terrain, large parcels, good access to transportation, including Roy Rogers, 12 Sherwood Road. So the target land uses here would be office, light industrial, and flex industrial spaces. Target industries continue to build on the advanced manufacturing, clean tech, and potentially some apparel and outdoor, which is common in Washington County and our region. We did do a refinement study, which evaluated the opportunity to create and protect large parcels. So the northeast corner, there is an opportunity to create a parcel of about 95 acres there, which would be a really provide a lot of flexibility and provide one of those large lots that's currently lacking in the region. Another reason why we're wanting to provide employment land uses in Sherwood West. We have a population of over 20,000 right now, based on the latest data. Only less than 1,000 residents actually work in Sherwood. And we would like to provide the opportunity for people to live and work in Sherwood. And again, have all those other regional benefits in terms of traffic, pollution, vehicle miles traveled, all that sort of stuff. So we're hoping to provide quality of life. Thank you. And so this gets us closer. I don't think it gets us all the way there, but it gets us closer.
So Mayor Rosner, I appreciate this relook and all of the work that the community has done. I have not watched the Metro Council, the current form of the Metro Council, to see where they may be at politically in their role with regard to the upcoming urban growth report and UGB expansion. From my recollection of the kind of visioning that we were working on at the time for urban and rural reserves, the whole collection of elected officials, it seems to me that both your residential planning as well as your employment land planning has been true to making the most of those limited urban reserves that were designated. So I wanted to make sure that I brought voice to that. Perhaps you've had briefings with individual counselors already, but we've seen in other topics, constituent and some nonprofit community-based organizers using the term, urban sprawl and things like that, phrases like that. And that's why, as we move forward in our having a role for your work, I've been looking out for what it is you are doing. And I'm at this stage, I'm willing, I know we're not there yet, but I'm really impressed with the work that you've done on the employment side. And I wanted to speak up now because you have been following through. Your visions are what we hope for a Washington County into future generations and decades, as well as I think for a metro region. I just couldn't wait any longer.
Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I will say, we are talking to Metro quite a bit at the staff level and at the political level. Obviously, I can't speak for any votes or anything that they're going to take on this, but we're the only city asking for an expansion of the UGB in this cycle. And so far, what we're hearing back and I'm hearing back is very encouraging, and we're getting a lot of support from Metro so far. So, but you are right, there are interested parties out there that may engage in this conversation, but so far we seem like we're on a pretty good path.
So I want to make sure that I'm clear in my mind right now for about 2:45 where we're at in terms of your presentation. And I know for sure this is an informational briefing at least, but is there a request of us today?
Not
Okay.
Yeah, we really just wanted to give you the opportunity to review the concept plan, have the city give the presentation, let you answer or ask rather questions that staff can help answer. And then we'll have a future agenda request at a certain point to formally acknowledge the city's adopted plan. So
Okay,
It's really just your opportunity to ask questions, give feedback.
so could I just pause for a moment?
Absolutely.
And ask my colleagues, we can just keep going through the presentation, but I want to make sure that we don't leave right up to the last minute that you have any burning question on any particular part of the presentation or anything you wanted to say. So,
Happy to jump in. Joy, good to see you again. It's always nice. I've seen you a lot and recently, so it's always good to see you. As you, well, at least you know, I've supported this plan. I think it's a good plan. I'd always hoped that you'd go down to the Salt Creek area, but I understand that this is a next area for you. Excuse me. The issue, not with your plan, but overall that I have is you're gonna have about 9,000 to 10,000 trips coming out of those employment lines, at least. The county is the one who provides the infrastructure once you leave those areas, because you aren't all going to work there. It's just not going to happen. You're going to see people go to the north, you can see people go to the south. And in the recent MSTIP allocations, you have a small little bit you're getting up above, but I didn't really see a lot that you were asking for in terms of other investments that would make this particular area work. So understanding that you've done a bang up job in your area, working with your streets, but understanding that none of us are islands and we have to get those people to other areas. What is your vision for doing that? Because you've got road systems that really are not sufficient to handle that. You know that, and I know that.
is that slide 32 maybe?
It could be. Let's see what, let's see what 32 is.
That one.
One more. This one here?
No, that one.
Yeah, this is just the overview of the concept plan. But I
It
think,
shows the different roadways and trails. I get it
Yeah,
with your
yeah.
concept plan, but I think it does illustrate the different roadways
Yeah.
that Commissioner Rogers is pointing out we have a dependency on.
yeah, absolutely. I thank you, Commissioner Rogers. I think it's a point well taken. And, you know, looking outside the Sherwood West boundary, we're definitely looking at that as well. So to the east, Roy Rogers to Alton Sherwood Road. So that is, I'm sure you're aware, being widened now. So we will have a fully improved brand new road from Sherwood West to I-5. And that's because of the good work and planning that's already taken place. So it'll be a 5-lane arterial all the way to I-5. As we go to the north, you know, that's where River Terrace 2.0 and Tigard and others. And so that intersection right by Mountainside or Mountain View High School just got opened up as well. But I think there needs to be, you know, continued investment in that as well. To the south, you know, we get outside the Washington County boundary. That's going to be in Yamhill County. And not really any issues, in my opinion, between Sherwood and Newburgh. You know, there's always some traffic there, but no congestion right now. But I think we're aware of that, and I think we were just talking as at a staff level with Mayor Rosener about region, you know, really getting the regional plan right in terms of transportation planning here, and not just having pet projects, if you will, but having developing a system that actually works. So I think
That's very specific.
sure.
Forward is what you've asked for, right, in terms of this.
Edie Road.
I'm sorry, Edie.
Correct.
Yeah, Edie Road, and it's just planning, right? It's not really construction a lot. It's just very small part of it.
Yeah, Commissioner, so the city has requested funding to build what we would refer to as a complete street improvement on Edie Road, really east of the Sherwood West planning area.
So could I just clarify here? There's the transportation system plan, right? Which has a full vision. And then there's this particular cycle of funding that you're speaking about that they've requested for now?
My concern is that you might be developing faster than the road system. I see. Is going to be put in, and I was just trying to pick, since I got you sitting here and you
Well,
don't.
we have that problem all over.
I
You know,
understand,
They try to get development to pay for those improvements.
but we got them in front of us and we have a whole new plan, so.
You know, I'll just say, one thing that we'll be looking at is, and we're gonna adopt the policy this year, is new annexation policy for the city. And as part of that, we're gonna do annexation agreements and just be a little firm here. You're not gonna come, the property is not gonna come into the city unless we have assurances that the transportation system is going to work. And we're serious about that.
Can I just say one thing?
Please.
Look,
Yeah.
I've already been hearing from people on Elwood who they really don't want the city to develop in there, and they really don't want the county to transfer any jurisdiction. You and I talked about that not long ago at a meeting, and so it's interesting. I think you've done a good job. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you know, there's always a variety of voices. I mean, depending on who you talk to within the community, some would like to see Elwood blocked off, so it's not a through street, you know, and others want it to become a, you know, a 5-lane, you know, collector. So, you know, we're working hard to balance those needs. I will say, you know, we've been talking to staff here at the county about our Edie Road Mistip project and the potential of, you know, as we're completing that project, how can we take advantage of the planning that's going into that, start looking at the planning in parts of the Sherwood West area to make sure it's all going to be complete as far as that goes. So we are trying to be smart about that. And Commissioner, I'll add, I think we all share that concern about development not getting too far ahead of the system. And I think we've done a better job in the last decade or so of trying to anticipate and get ahead of those issues better. But you're right, there's always a limited amount of funding and lots of competing priorities. And so, but we were just literally before this meeting with city and really just exploring how we leverage potential MSTIP funding for Edie Road, maybe look at some additional feasibility analysis for improvements to Elbert Road and Edie. And so really trying to think about how to set the city up as a part of their UGB expansion to really be successful and to understand what the true costs of some of the potential improvements look like, because that's important as you're talking about things like an annexation agreement, setting system development charges and other fees that may be applied. So we are going to continue working closely together.
Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I just want to say thank you very much for being here. And I've had the opportunity to see some of this and to talk with Mayor Rosner through MPAC and some other locations. And what strikes me is this is really innovative. It's very, I love the focus on cottage clusters, all the different pieces, the hospitality gateway, while not forgetting the employment land and all of the housing pieces. So I'm, to Chair Harrington's point, I'm very, very impressed by this. And like I said, I've had the opportunity to watch others react as well, and it's been very positive. So thank you for your good work.
Commissioner Fire, Commissioner Willie, do you have any?
Well, the only comment I'd make on Elwood is, we're listening to the debates we had on the extension of Cow Flat Road, and the comment is, I come in from the old Sherwood Road and I drop onto Elwood to drop down to 95 and to get to sports fields and everything else going in there. So I would advocate for Elwood actually being a much more prepared, I guess, thoroughfare to get from one side to the other, because I really believe you want your people, you want your citizen, your residents to have access north. Roy Rogers Road is not going to be an efficient way to do that. That's the only way. And so, but right now, that's all you got. So
No.
I think you should be looking at other options. We can go 99, but
That's the one I was thinking.
Sherwood connects up with.
No, sorry. I'm thinking you come in off of, there's Elwood when it goes up It then goes up and then curves to the left and then connects up with Grosvenor Store and River Road and whatnot.
Mhm. That's the route I'm talking about.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
He's what I was
Windy
trying.
little road out.
Yes,
there.
absolutely. Yeah.
It is.
I would add.
It's
that-
better than going the other way.
I would add, and it's something we have to remind a lot of our people in our community, it is a concept plan, so, we have these dotted lines on there where we think roads might end up, but as we all know from other concept plans happen, they usually end up in a different location. So, and there's a lot of planning and work that needs to go into figuring out what the right alignments are. We do talk about, it's not on there on the map, but there's this concept in the plan that not only looking at Elwood, are there other ways to make sure we're getting traffic out of Yamhill County to our centers in an effective way, because that's a big challenge that we have today.
Yeah.
Because everybody's coming up that corridor and they want to get to Hillsborough, Aloha, Beaverton, Portland, Wilsonville. So there is a concept in there. Are there other options besides Elwood to do that? We want to look at as well.
Commissioner Fry, anything?
No,
Great.
sorry, I had to step away, but this was a pre-planned, I had to tell you, appointment, but I did have one comment for Stephen Roberts, which is, what's your, like, to avoid what happened with ordinance 882, like, to be really collaborative with the city as we go on. We might diverge as the final plan, but at least to be in the loop.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think we have a really open collaborative relationship, so I think are not anticipating any similar concerns.
So with regard to next steps, Stephen, I've pulled out the worksheet, and the second to the last paragraph, it enumerates different next steps. Are those already penciled in with the rolling agenda?
Yes, we do have dates.
Perfect. Just needed that assurance.
Okay.
Okay,
Here to help.
great.
Thank
So
you
we've
very
got it
much. Appreciate
pre-planned out, and if commissioners need more time with you, they'll give you a ring up, and onward ho we go.
We're always available, Chair, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us today.
Well, I know I have to catch up with our latest rolling agenda that I know we'll have in advance of our March 7th roundtable. So I think it's set up well. I just want to make sure that you have what you need in terms of our bringing voice when you submit an application to them.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, and good job. Okay, at this juncture, we are going to have board and leadership communication before we take a break at 3:30. So, on the board, who would like to go first? Board communication.
No.
I can go first.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Over the weekend, I was out of town, but did have communication with Senator Solomon. This is my personal support of the right to repair bill. So that went through I did the support through Senate Bill 1596. That through the Senate side, it went through the House side. Thank you very much to the Government Affairs Group and Tomata for the work there. So I think that went well.
That confuses me. You can't confuse using our staff for your personal, and you just did.
I did.
So I'll just note that.
Thank you.
Okay. So just watch that.
Yes, no, that's good. Good call. And I
We don't
recognize that
use
as
our
well.
staff for our individual stances on things.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. My apologies. Yesterday I had an MPAC County Sync Up meeting, and Mayor Callaway and Mayor Rosner participated on that on Wednesday night at MPAC. I'm having eye surgery done tomorrow morning. I will not be leading the meeting tomorrow evening, but I will be in attendance, so I don't need my alternate there. And that's all been worked out through through impact. Both Jessica and Maida will be at the meeting. The agenda includes nominations for MTAC that really don't affect us directly, but we did review those. It also includes an update from the symposium and other communications regarding the solid waste that symposium that Catherine and I both attended in September. So we'll be hearing what the feedback is there, and there'll be an update on the forecast regarding employment numbers and general population numbers and that type of thing from Ted Reed and family.
For the UGR.
Yes, yes. Next Monday night, I will be in my first anchor meeting as co-chair. It's a little misleading because I'll be chaired just because we don't have a community co-chair yet.
Oh, right.
And that will happen. And then not next Monday, but the following anchor meeting, you will be in attendance as well.
In April. Mhm.
Yep. And I'm going to be Friday night attending Centro's Central Cultural Gala along with Chair Harrington.
Who's next?
I will. I'll go ahead.
Thank you.
So last week I did give a Teams meeting testimony and regarding House Bill 4106. It's a House bill that is not going to come out of committee, but I was given a courtesy opportunity to speak to that. So I did that.
Topic of,
This is on forestry.
thank you.
And this is a bill that we're trying to push forward that would require ODF and certainly our state forester to put 5-year projections out there and then have a requirement that ODF would meet those 5-year requirements of what harvest would look like. And just as a side note, we have now lost 3 lumber mills in Oregon, 182 jobs. And so this is starting to move in the wrong directions. We're
In Washington County or in the CFTLC?
CFTLC, but ours is in Banks.
Yeah.
So the largest one was in Banks. Had a meeting with the Salmonberry Trail Foundation last week. We're talking about fundraising events and moving ahead on certainly trail design and all of that. And I would offer that we are going to have a number of hikes that we offer for everybody that is interested at all. So if you want to go on a couple-mile hike, it's not going to be a long one, but certainly it gives you an opportunity to see the trail and what we've done out there. So if you want to do that.
Is that
you know.
on the Salmonberry Trail Foundation or whatever website, or do we need to find out about that through you?
No, it's on the trail website too. Yeah, we are definitely pushing that information out and trying to get everybody. And there's been a lot of attention. We've done a lot of them already, even through the winter. So attended the GPI monthly board meeting and the Market Insights. The Market Insights was about our ports in the region. So it was a good update on our, not only the Port of Portland, but all of the other ports that we have around. So those was actually more than I thought. Met with Deputy McCrae, got some updates on some drug seizures and some other things that are going on, of course, in the Sheriff's Department. I attended again virtually the Forest Trust Lands meeting on Friday. There was a lot of, again, follow-up with the State Forester and Oregon Department of Forests. Continue to have conversations about what's the HCP look like and where we're going next. The State Forester is going to make a recommendation to the Board of Forestry the first part of March. So we have an opportunity to testify, I believe, to the Board of Forestry next week. Just a second. Is that my notes here? Yes, next week. And so I'm going to be working with Council Forest Trust Lands on, do we want to do that? So you'll hear more information about that. I think we've got.
What day does that happen? Because what I'm thinking is, I know you're out for vacation at some point, but we do have a board meeting on Tuesday so that you know, for example, I'm thinking you may just have a few bullets that you want to bring to us or a key message. And we give you a thumbs up on that. So
Yeah, I'll get you that information. You're correct on that. It is, March 6th and 7th,
Wednesday.
Wednesday and Thursday. Yep,
Yeah, so you might want to just check in with us on Tuesday,
I will do that.
just so you know, you got all 5 of us behind you,
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
4 of us behind.
Portland Metro, Portland Metro Chamber elected reception was to go over some of the survey information. You will be getting a packet emailed, so Maida is going to download the documents that was received there and send that out to you. It's interesting stuff, so just take a few minutes, if you will, and look at that. Went to the Hillsborough Schools Foundation fundraiser on Saturday night. I'm going to the Chaplain Banquet on this Friday night, and then attended the Cornelius Boosters luncheon yesterday. Talked to them about what's going on in Washington County. Met with the Regional Arts and Culture Council yesterday. Got an update from them on what it looks like with some of their funding going away from Portland, Multnomah County. And then, and then I leave on Monday for vacation. I will be gone for about 8 days. All I got.
So that's starting next Monday, so you won't be at our board meeting on Tuesday.
I won't be on the board meeting on Tuesday. I can always Zoom in. We can have a conversation. I'll get some information before that. Let's see what today is, Tuesday. In the next day or two, I'll get some information.
Okay, Commissioner Rogers or 5? 1, 2.
Okay, I'll go. Chair went counting, countdown. I'll go next. Some of my highlights for last week include the sheriff's office is going through their reaccreditation with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. And as part of that reaccreditation process, Washington County Sheriff's Office had assessors from the CALEA, I think it's called the CALEA, thank you, CALEA. I agreed to be interviewed regarding the sheriff's office, professionalism, service to the community, and overall services. Safe to say that the sheriff's office is getting an A+. The discussion with the assessors was great. I actually had the opportunity it's a great opportunity for me to also learn some standards that sheriff's office have to comply with CALEA and the tenets of their accreditation. And then last, or one of the last, I had a lot of discussion last week. Oh, I probably should have said this earlier. I too had a last week. I took 2 days off. And then we had Monday off, but I had a lot of discussions around the potential amendment with the proposal to House Bill 4002. And a lot of those discussions were centered with AOC and a lot of the communities. I think Chair Harrington earlier, what you said around the community expecting us to know the ins and outs of this proposal and this bill, and then also the moving parts involved. But AOC is really doing a great job of on top and trying to speak for the counties, and it's been a great week to be knee deep in that conversation. And then last highlight, I attended with Commissioner Willie last week, the state of the economy and the state of downtown Portland address. This is the Portland Metro Chamber did. And what they did, I appreciate you sharing that material. They have not shared it electronically, but they shared a lot of good information that they put together. And one of the high level one, Washington County was only mentioned once, but the good news is Washington County, people are less afraid or people are less frustrated in Washington County than they are in Multnomah County and Clackamas County. And one of the interesting things, because I have a lot of family that live in Portland, people are afraid even during the day to be in downtown Portland. So, but there's also, they shared a lot of great work that they're doing and some of the governor's recommendations around what to do and to revitalize downtown Portland. A lot of good information. I hope they do share that electronically with us. And then busy week ahead.
Quickly, it was a busy day. I met with the finance committee. It has to deal with how we're going to work systems deal with a little bit of a reduction in financing and salaries for some of the staff. I think, Pam, when you were there, you were dealing with some of the budgetary issues, but the staff compression of salaries is getting interesting as far as, yes, you remember.
Yes,
We found that through some studies that our salaries are pretty high for the size of the organization. Probably the highest in the Portland area. And I don't think a lot of people knew that, but that's going to be an ongoing issue. Attended the Transportation Council of the Washington County Chamber, and hopefully that puts out some information in regards, I didn't catch exact dates, but 217 is going to be shut down for a bit, and that's going to do around Washington Square when they take the bridge over out Overhaul Boulevard. It's going to be completely lifted off and then put back down. It's kind of an interesting process, but that's interesting. Significant natural resources. I found that to be extremely complex issue. Commissioner Willie was in with it. He found it to be extremely simple. So you'll have to tell me why it's so simple. I think it's
I'm not sure I'd go that far.
oh, all right. Maybe you didn't say that. On this coming, I think it's Thursday, there's the Family Promise of Tiger Shelter open house. I don't know how many will be attending. There were 4 of us who did the last time. Some groundbreaking up there, but it's a nice program, and we all should try to attend if we can. Next week is, let's see. That's enough.
Okay, thank you. As you know, I was out from last Wednesday through yesterday, the 20th through the 26th. Thank you for accommodating my needing to depart early due to what is now a death in my family. It was a medical incident. Turned out to be terminal. And as such, I will be going back to New England for the wake and funeral, which means my travel was complicated by the fact that the wake starts late afternoon Friday. So I couldn't travel on Friday, and I wanted to make sure I was available for the roundtable on Thursday. So I'll be flying out on Wednesday, the 6th of March. So I won't be available for work on Wednesday nor on Friday, but I will be participating in the roundtable by Zoom and available for some other. So I apologize for the inconvenience, and I will be flying home on Sunday. So I'll finally have a full week that following week. This Friday is the first Metro stakeholder table. What are they calling it? Let me make sure I use the right phrase. The Metro Regional Housing Funding Stakeholder Advisory Table. I did forward you the latest packet simply because if you were curious about who was on this stakeholder table, you would have access to that and what the first agenda is. So that's happening. And our team's making sure that I have information that I may need for this first meeting, but I'm sure there's more to follow. But towards that end, you've had the opportunity to hear me raise concern about how things were going with Metro, particularly with SHS and a lot of generalizations. I was able to fully participate in the SHS Oversight Committee meeting yesterday. by Zoom and then by phone. They just completed their content for the second annual report. They did talk about the concern that we're 8 months into year 3, but they have been able to complete it more quickly for the second year than the first year. They did refine some of the language so that, for example, the specific point that they were making about underspending, they still make the generalized term, but then they followed that with speaking specifically to Multnomah County. So they heard my concern that they were throwing all 3 of us under the bus. I still don't know what qualifies success in terms of the spending, right? Because we spent 97% of what we had forecast for budget. And so I think we perhaps want to give direction to our team to overspend for next year and see what happens. I know, right? Because you either, what's the band of acceptable? So they're not willing as an oversight committee to answer that question, but maybe we should pose that to the co-chairs when they come and present it to us, which will be somewhere in April, May.
What are we gonna send them a bill, or are we gonna set an IOU for the next year's?
No, it's really all about messaging and what are you championing? And bottom line, they felt that given that this is the second year that they needed to be more critical. So despite our having lots of successes and positive results, they felt they needed to deliver a critical report. Okay, but that means and Metro still hasn't produced a regional comms strategy. So towards that end, our communication officer, Philip Bramsford, is putting together a strategy for us to get our success story out to Portland and Multnomah County and Metro, because our team's done a good job of communicating our positive message within the Washington County sphere, but we need to do a better job of educating the folks in Portland and Multnomah County that I'm not even sure if they know where Washington County is. Oh boy, was that a cynical statement.
That was snarky.
Yes, yes. It just goes to show how tired of this.
It was smooth though.
So there will be an op-ed. Philip has put together an op-ed on our homeless management successes here in Washington County. And it may be published with just myself and the mayor of Forest Grove. Both Beaverton and Tigard and Hillsborough have all had big successes. Beaverton and Tigard being the biggest or the most recent, right? You mentioned the Family Promise grand opening Thursday of this week. But Beaverton and Tigard are each dealing with my crass way of putting it is NIMBYism and lack of nuance in people understanding the difference between a low barrier shelter versus some of our high barrier means. So we're threading the needle, but nonetheless, we're getting the op-ed out and there will be more to come. So Philip will make sure you have all of that. So sorry for a very short list that I got too long-winded on. That's what's going on. Doing what I can. Ms. Angie, hello.
Hello. I'm blurry eye from being in DC Sunday and coming back Sunday evening The flight attendant Sunday evening said she recognized me from the day
Oh.
before, so I don't know if that's a good sign or not. Had a really productive meeting with ICMA, the International City County Management Association, and NFBPA, which is the National Forum of Black Public Administrators. As well as ICMA is going to be pulling it together other affinity groups to build out ICMA's toolkit on equitable communities and further tools to how do we create equitable communities. So looking forward to supporting that work across the country and the world as we move forward. So relative to ECDev, staff had, and I do want to actually just call out the people first, because we know that our employees at Washington County are really how we do our work. So Matt Craigie is here, our economic development manager. Next to Matt is Alyssa, and she is our management analyst. So all of those many contracts that we have in ARPA, and I think Commissioner Treese and Commissioner Willie know very well, from CARES Act funding, we need to make sure that we're handling them accurately. So Alyssa is the brains and the power behind that work. And then Adrian is our program coordinator, who has done amazing work bringing together partners across the county and continuing to build out our ECDev strategy. Not in the room today due to illness. I didn't forget. Is Christian, and Christian is our program coordinator as well and assigned to broadband. And that was an initiative that your board had brought forward after the NACO conference last year. And so why are they here today? Well,
Because they're a mighty team.
they are a mighty team. And happy to report that they just completed their first economic development progress report. And Matt will be handing those out to your board right now. This is the first in-depth report that summarizes the county's economic development efforts since the program's inception in 2021. That was actually just a mere few years ago. I just want to say I'm incredibly proud of this small but mighty team's accomplishment and think that the report does a fantastic job of telling the story of how the county responded to the negative economic impacts of the pandemic. And we're continuing to build the solid program foundation that will enable the county to continue to advance economic resilience and workforce development in the years to come. We do also want to applaud the board's leadership in this space to advance equitable economic development countywide. And after you have time to review the report, because we know this isn't a presentation, this is just a leadership update, we would welcome and the team would be happy to sit down and have one-on-ones with you. Staff
Question?
Go ahead. Sure.
Due to my needing to be out last week, I wasn't able to participate in, I think it was a graduation for PCC. Was it Quick Start? That's right. But I did see on Facebook that Congresswoman Bonamici and an administrator from the Biden administration were able to participate. Were we able to find any other board member to cover that?
Yes.
Sorry, I put you on
Yeah, happy
hot
to.
seat.
Bear with me. I've got just a little bit of a cough here. So just for the record,
Yeah.
Matt Gray, Washington County's Economic Development Manager. Great question, Chair Harrington. Actually, we have a number of different opportunities coming up for you all to come and participate in some of these graduations. So we do actually have one coming up in April, and I think that Commissioner Fye is going to be coming to that one. And then actually, I need to be sending you an email about another one coming up. For the record, the Quick Start program is a program that's funded by Washington County in collaboration with the city of Hillsborough and also Intel, and it's held at PCC's Willow Creek campus, and it focuses on getting folks into the advanced manufacturing sector. Now, of course, this is a foundational sector here in Washington County, here in Silicon Forest. And they need more folks to be helping to make those wafers. So it's a great contribution that the county makes at your direction.
So thank you in advance for taking advantage of those participation opportunities.
And I'd like to know, make sure those opportunities are on my calendar.
100%. We'll make sure they're on everyone's calendar. Thank you.
And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to cover or find coverage for the most.
Another one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So let's talk about moving forward. Staff are preparing to launch an economic development strategy process. And this will align with your board strategic plan update. If you recall, we are operating under an economic development action plan. We really needed to build the program and start with action. So that's why we wanted to focus on action plan first. And now it's time to take stock of where we've been and determine what the future holds. More on this process will be sent in an email to your board by Danny Ledesma this afternoon or tomorrow. And that concludes my update.
Thank you. Brad Anderson, County Administration. County Council.
Yes.
Switching roles.
Yeah, right?
Sorry.
Couple of quick updates. We're providing a lot of technical support for our GR team in bill review, and that includes both the nitty-gritty legal aspects and kind of this, how does it work? So our folks know what it's, what would this look like on the ground at Washington County? So we're providing that input to the GR team. Two of the bills, I don't have the bills numbers in front of me, but I will share with you that could potentially have an impact on our office. There is a bill before the legislature on how we address the proceeds tax foreclosed property. And there's been some amendments to that we have some concerns about. So our staff's giving some feedback to our GR teams.
Without any visibility to us.
Yes. We can share that with you. This just happened like yesterday.
Okay.
So more to come on that. And then, there is the bill on whether UGB expansions be referred to the voters. We're watching that bill real closely too right now. On another note, you've probably seen in the news the litigation regarding the estate of Rosa against Lennon, and that was the double homicide and suicide. We put an item on the hot sheet about that this last week. Tragic incident. But I just want to share for your board that in Washington County, when it comes to pre-trial release supervision, that is a court function and not a county function. It's a little different in some jurisdictions, but that's not the case here. And so the court was supervising this individual. It was not the county. So even though we have a lawsuit, we have a strong basis for defense in that case. Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Clean Water Services.
Thank you, Chair Harrington.
Got it right this time.
Good afternoon, Board of Clean Water Services. I have some very sad news that I want to share. Gary Kramer, who was the third general manager for Clean Water Services from 1978 to 1994, so for 16 years, passed away last Thursday. And we're really sad to hear this. I mean, he was at Clean Water Services at a time when there's massive treatment plant projects and interceptor projects, and he did that so well, and he really left us this very deep legacy in water services. As we hear more about his services, we'll let the board know that this is a very sad time for Clean Water Services. Mike McKillip's celebration of life is on Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Grand Hotel at Bridgeport Village. We have one of our wooden medallions that we're going to give to his family, and you'll be there. Yeah. Yeah, it's a sad time. So we were able to catch him on footage not so long ago. So this is telling the story. Yeah, Gary. So we're gonna think about how to honor his life and his bit. I thought you'd want to know. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for board and leadership communication? No? Okay, so at this juncture, we're going to take a 15-minute break and we'll come back here at 3:40. Do that, right, Brad?
Yes.
Okay, but I might as well ask for preemptively now when we do come back at 3:40 that we'll be doing so in executive session. pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub E for the purpose of property negotiation.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimous 5-0. So we'll see the board and those staff directly involved with this matter at that time. Great. Thank you.